field, I realized that if I applied my technical skill sets to the areas that I was the most passionate about and allowed myself to fail until I succeeded, that I could be successful. Next slide. And so I want you guys to think about some of these things on the slide, because I believe that starting a business and becoming a successful entrepreneur is not so different than working out. Now, you might ask me, why do I say that? And it's because the company that I have now, the company that I built 11 years ago, the company that has made the Inc.'s fastest growing list of companies in America twice, is the third attempt at being a successful entrepreneur. I had to fail twice before I could get to the first success. And so any type of entrepreneurial experience that you can have as an engineering undergrad, or even as an early career admit, is a good one, regardless of how it turns out. You can't get tied up in, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work. You want it to not work. You learn more when it doesn't work. And so as I started to think about the product, I started to ask myself these questions. Like, what is it that I can make that has value? How do I start to test whether or not I can actually build something that was successful? And I didn't waste a lot of time trying to get it perfect. What I did do was I perfected this concept of, let me quickly develop something, try it out, and then if it doesn't work, move on. Because whether you realize it or not, you are not what it is that you do. I recently had the opportunity to talk to an incredible entrepreneur. His name is Mark Lowry. And Mark Lowry recently finished a $700 million round. $700 million in one fundraising round. And I asked him, the first company that he founded was diapers.com. He sold it to Amazon for $550 million. The second company he founded, he sold to Walmart for like $3 billion. And now he's on his third business called Wonder and has raised a $700 million round. And I asked him, every single time you were trying to figure out how you were going to do these things, did you ever doubt that you could do it? Did you ever question if what you were doing was the right thing? And did you ever feel a tremendous sense of loss when you transitioned because that company was acquired or you sold it? And he said, no, because what I am is a serial builder and a serial creator. And so if I can create something and it gets acquired, or if I can create something and it transitions into someone else to grow to be a bigger thing, then I've succeeded. Which is why he knew when to sell and he knew when to grow, and he built all those things for speed. Next slide. So I want you guys to have a little bit of fun with this. And I want you to take some time and do exactly what I say on this slide. I want you to take a moment and write down to yourself, what is one small thing that you could build if you knew you couldn't fail? And it doesn't have to be something super big. Who knows? Maybe you want to deliver tacos via a drone. Maybe you want to figure out how to optimize something here on campus. But like, what would you build just to get started? Does anybody feel brave enough to share? Yes, yes, and yes to you for being brave.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I want to create an environment where anyone can start their own startup, or they can grow their business from 1 to 10. And I would love to provide them with a team of experts and with all the advice that they would require to do so.
That is awesome. So let me ask you as a question. Does anybody else here think that that's a great idea? Yes? Yes? Okay, does anybody else here have a skill set that they think that could be of value to her mission? Yes, I see you nodding. Yes, 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 yes. When you have an opportunity, go make the connection. To this day, some of the most valuable relationships I have are with the people that I went to school with. I remember launching my first nanosatellite, and I was briefing a colonel for the Air Force. And I was looking across the table and I was seeing somebody else that was in my grad class that was working from a different space facility. And that person had been coaching and cheering me on all along the way. You need to make it your mission to know the people who are around you and to form long-lasting relationships with them and follow their careers, because I guarantee you that you all are going to be successful. And the most valuable thing that you'll need later on as you start to build may not necessarily be money. Oftentimes, it's advice. Before I move on, I'm curious to know, now that we've had such excellent representation, if there's a guy out there who wants to share. Ooh. Too shy? I know that there's someone out there that's got something that they would build. If not, this round's going to go to the girls. Next slide. So as we talk about building things, and I really love this example because it's one that shocked me when I first started looking into companies and how they kind of start and how they evolve. But did you guys know that YouTube started as a dating site? Yes? Is it a dating site today? No, no. Which is a re-emphasis on why it's important to just get started and not get so obsessed with this idea of being perfect. Oftentimes, it's just the act of creating something, and then you allow that something to be used by a user, and you refine it until you have the right fit and the idea takes off. Next slide. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this relates to my life. I started by sharing with you that I wanted to be in aerospace, and then I decided that I was going to grow a business. And here I am daring you to tell me what business you would grow. And I did exactly the same thing that you did. I stood up in the middle of the room and I said, I want to figure out how to build an engineering company that no one really has seen before. And what I doubled down on was this idea of being innovative and working with really smart and interesting other people. And I grew that business from $1 to nearly $10 million without any outside investment, without any capital, and owning 100% of it. And in that first journey, I started to realize that I could do so much more if I had thought about product, because we were a service business. And if I thought about scale, and if I thought about going out there and starting to engage and inspire other people to build businesses that were complementary to my own. And so what you see in some of the features here is I started to expand my thought process about entrepreneurship and engineering and business. And as we started to go from being an engineering company to being a company that helped manage the nuclear stockpile, which was nothing that I knew about before, but I learned, to being an entrepreneur that had a service company, but then decided to start a product company, which I will tell you right now, the product company is probably the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. Every single day I fail. It's incredibly humbling, but I'm running a product company and a service company at the same time. I start to realize the impact of what can happen when you truly use the things that you're passionate about to fuel your purpose. Next slide. And what happened was, out of the engineering journey and all the struggles that I had trying to figure out how I was going to communicate what I was doing at NASA to the people around me and groups like this, we decided to build these coding kits that were literally boxes that we sent out into the community. And that box then became early exposure to hardware subjects because for most of my engineering practice, I really only had software exposure. When I ended up in my first electrical engineering class, I was terrified because I had no idea how to build anything and I had never really worked with my hands. And so this box came out of it. Looks like a small thing. I'll tell you this picture, this is the second iteration of the product. The first two boxes were terrible. We had math symbols on the front of them. We did a product feedback survey and I found out that parents didn't want to buy it for the kids because they were intimidated by the math. And kids didn't want to necessarily do it because the packaging communicated to them that it might be too hard. And so we scrapped that and we made this. But in 1 year for this product that I had no intention of, founding, we were able to raise nearly $2 million in traditional venture capital. And in 2 years, we sold nearly 10,000 units of product. And in that period of time, those products made it into 10 countries. And I now have the joy of actually getting to teach this during my time here in India. Next slide. And what is this? This is something that most of you, since I saw all of your engineering hands, have probably had an opportunity to experience. How many of you have wired up a circuit on a breadboard? Yeah, right? How many of you have, made an LED light blink as part of your circuit? Exactly, not exactly rocket science, right? All the things that are contained in this kit, I initially thought the idea was too simple to make. I didn't realize that the things that we know how to do, not very many other portions of the population know how to do. And so this became an idea that I said, you know what, I'm going to try it out and see if it actually works. And in doing so, we service middle schools and high schools. Next slide. We work with teachers. I literally just got done teaching a workshop with Syracuse teachers on how to create basic circuits. And if you guys saw the pictures of how excited the teachers are when their LED light blinks, you would have thought that I was teaching them to do something like it was magic. But I say all that to say that sometimes I think audiences and groups like this don't necessarily appreciate how brilliant, how talented, how special you actually are, and how the things that you know and you have mastered on a daily basis to other people seem like magic. Next slide. And so all of these logos, Logitech, Microsoft, et cetera, every single one of these tech brands either uses the product or supports the product. And most of it would have already been something that you guys would have seen and you would have dusted with ease in your freshman or your sophomore classes. So think about what it is that you could create. Don't get caught up on, well, I need this, or I need to have this team or this amount of money, et cetera, et cetera. Any and every idea that you have is valuable and is worth exploring. And so as we round out here, because I'm actually hoping to take a couple questions and to deliver some answers before we go, I want to remind you that the best problems to solve are your own. If there's something that you see in your environment that you think should be fixed, why wait for someone else? Fix it. It could truly be your next billion-dollar idea. Because remember, every single one of you is capable of a billion-dollar idea. Next slide. I also, and this is a plug, because I had an opportunity to talk to Raul Vora, who is the CEO and super talented individual of an email application called Superhuman. Have you guys heard of Superhuman? So Superhuman is revolutionizing email, which we all have email, but Raul will tell you that we're just not emailing effectively. He built a business based off of something that most people probably think is outdated. And he shares the tips and tools and techniques for not only how to make your life, which if you're in school, email optimization will definitely help you when it comes to time management and productivity. But he shared that in an interview with me on a show called Your Next Move, which is free on Inc.com. And so whether it's Mark Laurie, who I mentioned earlier, or, Mr. Vora, I really want to leave you guys with, if you're interested in exploring the ideas, check out these interviews. I have talked to Sunir Madani, who founded a company and sold it for $1 billion. I talked to Bobby Brown with an I, who's a makeup artist who sold her business for $75+ million. I have talked to so many people, including Raul, who I not only enjoyed talking to, but built a successful business where they recently closed like a $70 million round on something that most of us don't even think about changing, which is email. Leslie. And so before I open it up for question and answer, because I didn't talk about space and you might ask me a question about this, but for me, this is the next innovation. When I talk to you about Lingo, when I talk to you about the coding kits, the first lessons that we built were lessons that most of you guys have encountered. But the next lessons, those lessons are on CubeSats. The next lesson, which I shot a short film documentary on, and we launched in Kenya, Nairobi, was me teaching middle schoolers how to make a countdown timer out of their microcontroller kit. Everything that you're going to see from my company is about solving the problem for how do we get more people interested, involved in access to space, and not big space. I love big space, no issues with big space, but I don't have a big space budget. What I'm interested in is how do we get student groups and individuals out there developing small spacecraft, working on problems like space debris, looking at Earth monitoring, and developing things that can change the world in small form factors, which is part of why I was compelled to sign up for a mission to commercial space, where I will also be flying an instrument that will be tested on orbit to try to contribute to future scientific research around plants and sequencing plant genomes, which is exciting. And I don't know enough about it. And astrobotany is cool. And so with that, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for letting me push you a little bit. I want to thank you for offering your business ideas. And I hope that you guys will all go back and you'll work on your $1 billion idea. And at minimum, you'll think about what is it that you could do and what is it that you will do, knowing that you can and you will never fail in life. Thanks.
I would request all of you to please ask questions. Aisha, some questions. Please, students. Yes.
Hello, good afternoon. I wanted to ask you that initially, how did you convince other people to try out your product or your service, like marketing?
That provided them with, So initially what I did was I went out into the community and I looked at schools and people who did not have access to these sorts of resources. In the United States, it can be difficult to find a robotics program. It can be costly to buy the hardware. And I simply said, why don't you try this out? I wasn't interested in whether or not someone would buy it. I was interested in whether or not they would like it. And once I realized that people started to like the experience, I started to look at how can I get questions to pay for it because corporations were who were in need of future talent. And I think that's really where we as a company did very well because I thought about an enterprise play from the beginning. And so a lot of our sales, like even to this day, 80% of our sales come from 20% of our clients because we mostly work with large organizations who do bulk work. Now, I'll tell you, transitioning into subscription is much more difficult. We can have a whole separate conversation about that. But I think you have to get the product market fit right. You want to create something that people like, that they love to engage with. I'm not here to tell you that all my marketing is perfect. The business has a long way to go, but what I know is that at the end of the day, when I give somebody what we make, they like it. And you can do a lot with that. Yes. Oh. We're trying to save you from an echoing mic, so we're gonna give it a try.
Cheers.
All right.
My question is, how do you deal with the competition which are
How do I deal with competition?
okay? No,
Go ahead.
my whole question is, how do you deal with the competition which are much bigger than you, and do you have the fear that some bigger company will steal your idea? So how do you?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. And if you ever go and raise venture capital, I think every venture capitalist that you interview for, their funds will ask you the same question. So it was very well placed. Today, which of the two companies that I name exists? Blockbuster or Netflix? Netflix, right? And why is that? I mean, I think there were a lot of people when Netflix, they used to send us little CDs in the mail. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. I am. Once again, I'm dating myself. But I think people get really focused on large companies and large budgets. But execution is everything. And so what happens is when you're a large business, you may not think that that new, small, scrappy company is a threat. And you don't focus on it. You don't realize that the company's out there until they go and they eat your lunch. And so for me, I always bet on the little guy over the large guy because most of the time the large organizations, either they're not focused on you or you want them to pay attention to you to acquire you, right? That's another way that it goes. A lot of companies transfer risk by letting small businesses do that work and then they acquire them later. So I would never allow yourself to be intimidated by a larger company. I would allow you to use it as motivation to build a better, leaner, bigger company faster. Next. Oh, wow, get more questions over there. Good afternoon.
Two things.
Yes.
Business always has networking as its major platform where you
Yes.
can grow. Never know who's a genuine network and
Oh.
who's someone just trying to show that they're genuine. So that is the first question.
Okay.
Are they taking away your ideas? That is stealing the idea. That is the second part of it. And the second question about capital. Take a loan and make it in a larger scale.
Ooh, I'll answer the second question first because I feel so strongly about this. And I am not afraid to tell you guys that when I first started making money, I wasted so much money trying to figure out how to manage money. And you see this a lot with startup founders. They'll get venture investment. They will have gone from, I don't know, maybe having $100,000 to having $10 million. And the next thing you know, they're at CES, they're in Brazil, they're everywhere, they're blowing money, and they have not figured out how to grow or scale that product. And so I really like starting with your own money and then growing it from there. When I went after the round, the reason why I was able to navigate the way that I did was because I used my money from the R&D investment from a company that I owned 100% of. I spun the product off and we already had product market fit. We already had customers. And so when I talked to the venture capitalists, I could say not all money was good money. I didn't just have to take whatever people wanted to give me. I could actually negotiate because I had leverage. But aside from having leverage, it's very important to know that you don't know everything. It's really important to get some experience as an entrepreneur because a lot of times the business rides on the person who's founding and who's operating it. And so if you can test that out before you get a big investment, absolutely. There's no way I would have been able to handle raising venture and running this product company if I hadn't had the experience of losing my own money, growing a company with my own money, and understanding how to become an entrepreneur that could be invested in. The first one about the networks, I'm not sure I understand the question, but what I would say is that it's important to develop a sense of, what do we call it in the US? It's like discernment. So like your gut and your instinct about people, places, and things, it doesn't lie. And so what you want to do is kind of create maybe a litmus test or like the questions and the things that you're going to ask to be able to determine whether or not somebody is somebody you can trust or somebody that you can work with. And don't budge from that, right? It's better to have a smaller group of people who you trust, who are trustworthy and who can support you than to be friends with everybody. Like you really don't need everybody. You need a few people who you can do amazing things with. So don't be caught up in, oh, I've got to go out there and I've got to network and et cetera, et cetera. I actually spend a lot of time not being seen in the US anymore because not everywhere demands my presence. I don't need to be in every room. What rooms I want to be in are the rooms like I mentioned where I get to talk to people like Mark Laurie, right? I want to be in rooms with people that have value and to whom add value to me. And so I don't spend a bunch of time networking with everybody. I spend time trying to figure out how to network with specific people. So get very clear on what you want to accomplish and who you want to accomplish that with. You're welcome. So thank you guys so much for your time. I wish I had more, but oh, we got one more. Do you get, oh, yes,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
I absolutely love tech and computers, and I want to do something better and big in technology,
Good.
but I feel the field is very saturated.
No.
And I don't know where to start and what to work on. Can you please help on that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure I can tell you what to work on because oftentimes what you should work on aligns with what you're passionate about. The passion is important. But what I can tell you is that there's only one you. There's a 400 trillion chance that you exist and that you're in this room and that you're asking me this question, right? Do not discount what value you add to the equation. And I mean that for every single one of you. I mean, you're looking at somebody who I did not think I would ever found and start a business, but now I'm running one that's successful. I never thought I was going to space, but I'm going to space. And so I didn't look at it and go, wow, there are nearly 700 other people on Earth who went to space. I was like, no, I'm going to go, right? Do not think about anything other than what you want to do because you are the magic. You will make the difference and you will figure it out. And once again, and I feel like I need to turn this into a t-shirt or something or a mug, but like execution is everything. You'll look around and you'll see people and you'll think, oh, well, they're brilliant or they're talented. The 4.0 people who went to school with me are not the people running successful companies. Some of the people in my life who outperform me at work are not the individuals who are being asked to do US speaking tours, right? It is the work, it is the persistence. Every single day I get up, I work hard. It doesn't matter whether or not I win or I lose, I go back, I try again. And that counts for everything in life. So be persistent, don't think about what anybody else has to do, and go and make your mark. Thanks.
Aisha, just come over.
Oh.
Let's give a big clap to this great young budding entrepreneur who has really made a mark. Bigger one, bigger one. Great. That's it. Aisha.
Yes.
I was wondering whether I should be born 40 years hence now. I should be reborn again to become like an entrepreneur like you. So you have so much motivated my brilliant students. Let's clap for our students who asked brilliant questions. They were bubbling with more questions, but you didn't have time. Come again. And then see the things what you learned from her to give the essence. Dare to dream. You should always dare to dream. Keep a big dream and then don't hesitate. Don't keep small aim. You want to become a billionaire. So you should think like this, not as just to have a startup with a few million. Think of a billion. So always keep your dreams very high. That's one. Your ideas are important. The ideas, ideation is the first step towards innovation. So look around. You will find many challenges. Those are opportunities. So look for this. Don't look for very complicated launch vehicles or propulsion control, guidance, navigation, payload. All these, these are grand challenges. But there are many, many simple things which you can do in space business. That's what she has done. She didn't look for such major challenges, grand challenges, but she did look at what is required to be addressed in the vicinity. So look for such opportunities available because space business is growing with almost about 15% growth in the space business. So imagine the multi-billion-dollar business is growing with annual growth rate of about more than 15 to 20%. Then not only that, you need to look at technology, science and technology, but you have simple applications, services. There is plenty of opportunity to make apps, whether it is for farmers or for educators, capacity building, what she is doing. So look at everything. The possibilities are immense, infinite. So that is space. So thank you so much, Aisha, for this wonderful exposition. You are also a great orator. You touch the mind, heart, and soul of every one of them who is here, including me. I have become your fan now. So let's give a big clap to Aisha once again. And come again soon. And we are looking forward to interact with you. So many questions raised.
Thank you. So I just have one small favor for you guys to ask. Sorry, I have one small favor to ask of you. I'm wondering if I can get a video of you guys for my Instagram. It's my first day. Is that a yes? Yes, okay, yay.
Louder.
I'm gonna turn the video over to you guys, and if I could just get a yay, and if you could scream loudly where I am, because I wanted everybody in America to know exactly where I'm at in India, an organization that I understand is gonna graduate the majority
Yes.
of engineers in literally the next 5 years.
Yes.
Okay, let me get my phone. All right, you guys ready? You seem a little bit calm. I'm like, really, are you ready?
Say yeah. Louder.
All right, you guys, here we go.
Yeah. I'm also there.
One more time. That was good. That was good. What do you think? I think it was like a 6 step top.
Maybe one more time.
Yes. Yes. One time, right? Okay, yes. All right. All right, you guys. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Thank you so much. And if you guys have questions, you can hit me up on Instagram at AISHA BOWE.
Thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for an insightful word. As we come to the end of this insightful and inspiring session, it's my privilege to extend our heartfelt thanks to Miss Aisha.
Your valuable insights and experiences have not only enlightened us, but have also ignited a spark of innovation and entrepreneurship within each of us.
A special thanks to our faculty coordinator, Ms. Sujata Pandey ma'am, Director of AIDC and convener of IIC. Your guidance, support, and tireless efforts have been instrumental in making this event a reality. We appreciate your commitment to fostering a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship within our university. Thank you once again to everyone for your participation and making this event a memorable one. We look forward to many more such enriching experiences in the future. Thank you.